I deem it a privilege to be here and to have a conversation with Shri Dattatreya ji, the Sah-Sarkaryavah, that is Joint General Secretary of the RSS, and to reflect on the RSS's journey over the last 95 years. What are the hopes and aspirations and the circumstances in which the Swayam Sevak Sangh was launched and what happened subsequently. And this is going to be, I think, a very interesting conversation because there are many things which we would like to know in terms of how leaders of the RSS view many of these things that have happened pre-partition, post-partition in this country. So the RSS is 95 years old today, and I think it's the world's largest NGO. So how far has it come in terms of its goals and its mission? So we will begin with my first query to Dattatreya ji. The founder of the RSS, Dr. Hedgewar, was initially active in the Congress, and in fact, he took an active part in the Nagpur session, organizing the Nagpur session of the Congress in 1920. He was inspired by Lokmanya Tilak. He participated in freedom struggle, went to jail and so on. And then what happened? And how did the organization come into being, and what led him to set up the RSS? I will shoot off with this first question to Dattatreya ji. Dattatreya ji.
Namaskar to all. I have received the greetings from all the participants and others who are present here. So it becomes my happy duty to reciprocate the greetings. I wish a happy Navratri and Vijayadashami, and also the forthcoming Festival of Lights, Deepavali, to all of you. Very happy to be in this India Foundation's conversation series, and on this auspicious day of Vijayadashami, when evil is defeated by the good. That is the message of the day from time immemorial. It's a really heartening thing for me to be in conversation with my good friend, Shri Surya Prakash, the eminent journalist of this country. Surya Prakash has asked about the origins of the movement called RSS, or Rashtriya Swayamsevak Sangh, and the founder of the RSS, Dr. Hedgewar. Dr. Keshav Hedgewar, as he rightly said, was very much active during the freedom struggle right from his school days. If you go through his biography, you will find that even as a school boy, he organized his friends, he led them to remove the Union Jack on the Nagpur fort, and also he was not ready to accept the sweets distributed on the 60th coronation day of Queen Victoria in the school. He said that she is not my queen. They have been ruling this country, so that's why we cannot accept. We have become slaves under them. So how can I celebrate her coronation? Keshav Hedgewar, he uttered these words, and it's recorded. And later on, when he was in Kolkata pursuing his medical studies in the National Medical College, he came into contact with many revolutionaries of Bengal. It is also said that he chose to go to Bengal, to Calcutta, to get in contact with the revolutionaries. And he became a member of the revolutionary organization called Anushilan Samiti, which is a very prominent revolutionary movement in those days. And he had a secret name called Cocaine. And till the end of his life, he was coordinating with the revolutionaries and their activities even after founding the RSS, even when he was in the Indian National Congress, because he believed that any effort for the sake of freedom, whether it is under the leadership of Lokmanya Tilak, the Garam Dal, or under the leadership of Gopal Krishna Gokhale and later on Mahatma Gandhiji, the Naram Dal. He participated in both. He became the Joint Secretary of the Central Province of Indian National Congress in those days. He participated in the Swadeshi movement. Twice he was imprisoned, and 1921, once before the RSS was founded, and once after the RSS was founded in 1930s, in the beginning, Jangal Satyagraha and all. So he was an ardent patriot, and he participated in the national movement for the liberation of this country. One thing he found was, as Surya Prakash said, he was in charge of the organizing volunteers for the arrangements of the 1920 Congress convention that took place in Nagpur. By then, Mahatma Gandhiji had appeared on the scene. Before that, he traveled all the way to Pondicherry to persuade Yogi Aurobindo to take active part in freedom struggle again. But Yogi Aurobindo blessed him, and this is how Dr. Hedgewar was involved and associated with the freedom movement. But one thing he found during the jail period of himself and also in the struggle, that slowly after 1905, there have been certain elements in our national movement. Slowly there may be some division. And also he found that today we will fight, and tomorrow the British will go away and the country will become free sooner or later. But what will happen later on? For the long struggle that we have engaged ourselves in for the liberation of this country for nearly 1,000 years, struggle and struggle, and many of the qualities as human beings, as patriots, as citizens, they are essential, and those qualities to be instilled, which he called Vyakti Nirman, or man-making in the words of Swami Vivekananda. So this man-making is important, and another thing is a strong organization is important. Although India had this ancient history, a long-standing civilizational values, wonderful things, made many contributions to the humanity. With all these things, why we had to suffer under the foreign yoke? We were not weak, we are not downtrodden people, we were a great civilization, yet we had to suffer the ignominy of foreign rule. That is because he said there are three doshas, that is three weaknesses of our society. One, we are disorganized. In name of Fitzpatrick's tendencies like language, caste, etc., we are disorganized. So that British, as we all know, divide and rule, they could do it. Another thing is absence of self-respect. Down the line, this country thought that people who are ruling us, they are better in many things, and we are not up to the mark. So the self-respect of a nation, self-respect of a people, that was starkly absent. And the third thing he said, another is self-centered. Even during the freedom movement, he experienced that many people, for their selfish interests, many a time they have gone astray. When he experienced all these things, he thought that Vyakti Nirman, that is man-making, character building, is an essential thing for nation building, number one. And a strong organized society, as we can see in many European countries or Japan and many others, a strong society, well knit. And this is the guarantee for freedom that is we are going to achieve. So that's why while he was in Congress, he thought that he should engage himself in organizing the young people. That's why, along with the freedom movement activities, he participated in this. And Mahatma Gandhiji asked him, when Dr. Hedgewar met Mahatma Gandhiji in Nagpur, Mahatma Gandhiji asked why you could not do this being within Congress. He said it was not possible for me because Congress is taking a political movement. I want to do it as a socio-cultural movement. So that is why they cannot go together. That's why I had to do it separately. So this he clearly mentioned to Mahatma Gandhiji. This is how the RSS was founded.
Dattatreya ji, so let us come to the situation post-independence. These deficiencies which the founder of the RSS had identified in the Bharatiya Samaj, as it were. What happened post-independence? And also, I want your view on the Indian state as it has emerged after independence, our constitution, the institutions that have evolved, and the democratic model that we have adopted.
So what happened in the post-independence? One thing is, no doubt, the great heroes and great personalities during the freedom struggle, they inspired thousands and thousands of our young men throughout the length and breadth of this country. And that is why many youngsters, they gave up their lives for the cause of freedom. But in the immediate aftermath of the freedom, there are some folly or shortcoming. We were as a nation and also the government, instead of instilling these qualities, the values of freedom struggle, there was country was no doubt the rebuilding on the economic activities, the education, universities, factories, many came up. No doubt, they are very essential, welcome things. But the Tridosha, that was not addressed properly. For that, a proper education system was necessary. Public life should have been exemplary, and we should have addressed all these things with special reference to our cultural heritage and civilizational roots. Somehow in post-independence, these things were not taken as the inspirational things, civilizational roots and cultural heritage. Somehow our leadership felt that these things are not of great importance. That's why in the name of secularism and others, in our spirit to become a modern nation, we thought all these things are old ideas. That's why we should become modern, we should become international, we should become secular. These new things were instilled into our nation's psyche. So that's why those three doshas were not fully addressed. Partially they might have been, I do not dispute. And as far as the constitution is concerned, the great minds of our nation, the founding fathers of our constitution, they have definitely identified these things. See, the very first copy of the constitution has many wonderful pictures and drawings by our great artists. And those pictures and drawings, they are all pointing to the great heritage of our country. There is Valmiki, there is Srinam, there is Sri Krishna, there is Shivaji. Why these things were mentioned? They were printed in the Constitution's original copy. Words were there already. The Constitution had words. The spirit behind those words were represented by these pictures. So that means the founding fathers with the Constitution, they were very clear in their minds that these things should be instilled in the upcoming generation. So that's why our constitution, as Shri Mohan Bhagawatji, the chief of RSS, has again and again repeatedly, he has mentioned that the constitution of our country, it reflects the emotional, cultural personality of our country. But the thing is, in implementing those things, constitution, the government mechanism and the governance, and the policies that were to flow from the spirit of the constitution, there was some missing link. So because of these things, we have not been able to do it effectively, completely, wholly.
Sir, I'll now take you to the emergency and the role of the RSS at that time. You see, after Indira Gandhi imposed a dictatorship, which went on for 19 months, I found that a large number of members of the RSS, you included, you protested against the emergency, against the loss of democracy and democratic values. And I remember reading a document, a government document, which said there were 3,255 members of the RSS who were in prison under MISA.
Yeah.
So, so all of you went to jail and so on. So what was the thinking in the RSS at that time? What was the principle that was guiding you in the actions you took at that time?
I was a student in Bangalore University during those days, and because I was an activist and Akhil Bharati Vidyarthi Parichay, which became a part and parcel of the Vidyarthi Yuvajana Sangharsha Samiti, started or launched by Loknaik Prakash Narayan in Bihar. Actually, the movement of many of the people who are present here must be knowing the origins of the emergency movement. Before emergency, there was an agitation which became a statewide student agitation in Gujarat against price rise. And the Gujarat's chief minister was deposed because of the student agitation in those days. And a common platform was prepared, requested Loknaik Prakash Narayan to lead this. And JP put two conditions. One, it should not be only a political movement, and second, it should be totally non-violent. The student leaders agreed, and it became so. And later on, of course, political parties joined with the permission of Prakash Narayan and others. And this carried on the movement, and then Janata Sangharsha Samiti for the elders was also started. So this is how the four major things were addressed: price rise, unemployment, corruption, and bad governance. So these issues were addressed. JP toured the whole country. As you said, in 1975 on 25th, 26th midnight of June, the emergency was clamped. I do not want to go into the background of all these things for the sake of many people know. Later on, the RSS Swayamsevaks were given the freedom. If they want to join, they can, because in the interest of the nation, because of these four major issues which I mentioned, everybody in early 70s, after 1972, after the Srimati Indira Gandhi took, she was elected again, she had lost on three fronts. One, in the court, her election became null and void. She was unseated. Second, Congress lost in Gujarat elections. Third, there was a nationwide people's movement. So when this was coming up, emergency was clamped and the fundamental rights were suspended. Many organizations, including RSS, were banned. Prakash Narayan-like persons, they were all put behind bars. Members of the Rajya Sabha, Lok Sabha were kept behind bars. So because of these things, naturally, in order to protect, save democracy and constitution, the Sangha Swayamsevaks participated, RSS went into this movement, and it became the RSS office bearers became the part and parcel of Lok Sangharsha Samiti. As you rightly said, in November 1975, after 4 months of preparation, because underground movement in those days, the present generation cannot imagine, think of how things were there in those days. So because there was no social media, there was no communication channel, there was nothing, people have to meet personally. There are not even copying machines, we should understand. If you have to copy the things, you have to write on the cyclostyling. So I want to tell this to the present generation, how are things then? But there was a strong network was created because of the RSS. I remember George Fernandez, Ravindra Verma, and many others who came, Thakur Das Band, or Radha Krishna and Jayaprakash Narayan, who toured because I was in Karnataka and Bangalore. I remember, and this was the case everywhere. This underground movement network was well managed by the RSS network. That is the history everybody knows. And because of this, many people have mentioned in the post-emergency period, many books have mentioned how RSS played the role in running the underground movement very successfully. Thousands offered satyagraha, thousands were without satyagraha were also picked up, nabbed from their places. So RSS participated in a historic movement for saving democracy and constitution of our country. Core democratic values that are enshrined in our constitution, and they are enshrined in our constitution because it is the DNA of our nation. Because of these democratic values and institutions, the RSS wanted to protect these things. That's why when the government, particularly the Prime Minister then, she accused Jayaprakash Narayan, Balasaheb Devaras wrote to her that Jayaprakash Narayan is a great patriot. You should not abuse him in such words.
Yes.
So this is how the RSS wanted to protect democracy and also to protect the prestige of the national leaders, protect their lives. So this is how RSS played a role in re-establishing or restoring democracy.
Sir, I'll now draw you to another area of work, especially many areas of work as far as the RSS is concerned: tribal welfare, scheduled castes, weaker sections, in the area of education, and so on. So over these 95 years, you've built, a whole lot of institutions that are doing in various areas, especially, looking at the underprivileged, the tribal population in the country, and so on. What have you achieved until now? And in terms of your achievement, how do you see that?
Actually, as an RSS man, I should not say what RSS has achieved because that is nothing, because it's our duty, we have to do that. However, because RSS doesn't want the appreciation or certificate or awards, in any case, as the Rashtra Dharma and the duty to nation, RSS themselves have been doing it. Fine. There are slums in the cities, which we call Seva Bastis. We don't call them slums in RSS. And the tribal areas in many parts of the country, thousands of our workers, many of them are full-time workers. Many have remained bachelors for whole life. Many, the couples are full-time workers. They are working in remote areas of tribal areas, in tribal villages, border areas, hill areas, and also in cities and towns where there is a need for providing the basic needs: education, health, self-employment, etc. Number one. Number two, some inculcating basic values of life. These are the essential things that which we call sanskaras, and also creating a confidence in them that we are also part and parcel of this society. We can also contribute for the nation. It is not just sympathy that you should do and philanthropy. You should make them that they are also responsible citizens of this nation. For that, first, they have to stand on their own feet. That is why the physical requirements, needs for their physical life, worldly life, they have to be provided. That is the duty of the society. So RSS considers them as part and parcel of nation building activity. So that's why they will have to be empowered. Yeah. And their needs have to be taken care of. So that's why we address to them. And fortunately, many youngsters, hundreds, they are coming out. Doctors, engineers, graduates, they have given their major part of their lives for this work. Today, around 1.3 lakh, small or big, Seva Karya is going on. It may be a Sanskar Kendra, it may be Yoga Center, it may be schools, it may be Ekal Vidyalaya, it may be big hospital. Apart from the work that RSS does during the natural calamities like earthquake, floods, etc., I am telling round the year, the work that goes on, all not in the name of RSS, because RSS doesn't put RSS name on the service projects. The local committee is there, various organizations like Seva Bharati, Vanvati Kalyana Ashram, but every one of them is inspired by the RSS thoughts, RSS inspiration is there, and RSS workers, because of the training and motivation, they go and take up the work. Now, having said this, there are areas like rural development, education, health, employment generation, women empowerment, and the Dalit section, the scheduled caste section, they have to be empowered. There is two things. There are two things. One is their worldly needs, and another is social harmony, social justice. The RSS, when it started its Seva Karya with an institutional model, we addressed these, that social harmony, social justice should be established in our society. For this, if Seva Karya is required, wherever, we should do it, because they go hand in hand. Without the worldly needs addressed enough, you cannot achieve social justice and social equality.
Sir, you just referred to women's empowerment. Are you committed to a greater role for women in nation building? And if so, how is it reflected in your policies?
This nation, any society, without the half of its population, how can any nation make progress? Once Sri Mohan Bhagawat ji, RSS chief, he answered one question by somebody, some journalist or somebody. He said, RSS, as many number of people who are in RSS, so many members of women folk are also part and parcel of the Sangha movement. Because just now I said about the service activity, Seva Karya. In all the Seva Karya, women are there. And empowerment of women, social, political, cultural, economic empowerment. These are the essential things, because in Hindu society, from time immemorial, our women folk, sisters, mothers, they have played this role in their homes and hearts, in the fields, and even in the battlefields. So that's why women empowerment is not something that we have to inject by the men folk. It is already there. As Vivekananda once said, you provide them education, don't teach them. You need not do any Mahila Uddhar. They will do on their own. But you give them the opportunity at least. RSS is committed to this.
I have another question for you concerning women. Sir, crimes against women has reached it's just alarming now. The number of rape cases you read about and hear on a daily basis. So, what is your view? What is to be done to eliminate this problem? And what is it? Do you recommend stricter punishment, or what? How do you people view this?
Once Atalji said for the rape offenders, there should be capital punishment. This is what once Atalji publicly declared.
Yeah.
Thing is, this news of rape, very unfortunate. Such incidents happening in our society is really shameful. Not only shameful, it pains. It pains to the core. How can you show our faces to women folk if such things are repeated? Unfortunately, the women folk have to live in fear. It is a bad certificate for the men. We should understand this.
Yeah.
So that's why a fearless society for women. I am not telling only equality. They should enjoy this, that there is no fear at any time of the day or night.
Security.
An ideal society has to be created. Now the thing is, what can be done? See, one thing is the criminal procedures and rules, etc., regulations, administrative mechanism, they should become stricter. There should be stricter rules. The administration should be more alert. All these things are essential for in any civilized society. We have to demand from the government that they have to take immediate actions, effective actions, no doubt about it.
Yeah.
And if there is any need for better rules in order to achieve this, and they should be framed. But having said this, I would like to add one more very important thing. That's why how our society behaves at the family level. Whether we teach our youngsters to respect women, what does it mean to respect women, how to behave with women in neighborhoods, in colonies, in workplaces, in travels. So these are the areas we have to educate our youngsters and our people. Then our media has to play a very, very positive role. Unfortunately, at least some section of the media is not playing proper role in this, particularly our entertainment industry. And then, because of a lot of other, in the name of modernism, many a time, licentiousness, promiscuity is being promoted subtle way or very overtly. So these things are the things which create a system, an environment where youngsters and people get into these things. So that's why on one side, the administration, law mechanism, etc., police is necessary. We have to take stricter actions. But more importantly, behaving with women, how to view our women folk in families, neighborhoods, workplaces, etc. This has to be properly, a nationwide education is required.
I'll bring you back to an aspect of the Constitution. Pluralism is central to our democratic existence. And that's also the constitutional mandate, that we build and nurture a pluralistic society. So what is the RSS view on this?
The separatism in the name of diversity is dangerous for the nation's unity and future and destiny. But at the same time, the diversities, distinct identities are to be there because we are a society, a 5,000-year-old civilization. there will be diversities and pluralism is there. Many religions within this country, India-born religions and India-imported religions, all these religions have to live together. And that guarantee is possible when everybody has, apart from their Vyakti Dharma, Rashtra Dharma as the supreme thing. Because nation and constitution, if that is the overarching Dharma, then all other identities will have to be under that. If we are growing beyond that, then the problem starts. That's why we have to learn to live together. And this country, Hindutva, here the Hindutva comes. I would like to mention, underline. Here, Shaiva, Vaishnava, Ganapatya, Shakta, Jaina, Bauddha, Sikha, everybody has lived for hundreds and thousands of years. I come from Karnataka. The Hampi, you are also from Karnataka. Vijayanagara Empire, they have created the logo of this kind. And many kings and their vice queens, they were pursuing different religions like Shaiva, Jaina, or Shaiva and Vaishnava. They were together. There was no fight in this country. That's why this pluralism in the name of religion or in language, in cultural diversities, these things we have to live together. And no identity is unimportant. All small identities should be respected. But with those identities should flourish, but not at the cost of the nation's superarching identity of our nation, which the Constitution guarantees.
I have another question for you in regard to social media. Dattatreya ji, the discourse on social media over the last 2-3 years I'm seeing, it's degenerated to vulgarity, filthy abuse of one another. And I'm particularly troubled by, the kind of things that are said about, I'm from the media, about my women colleagues in the media who take a certain political position. Also women actors and women activists, or maybe women politicians. Both men and women are abused. But I find this to be absolutely obnoxious to which it has descended. What is your view on this? What should be done?
I have the same feeling as you have. See, trolling and personal criticism, commenting on their personalities, these things are unhealthy practices in our public discourse. It should be totally deplored, disgusting. Sir, social media has opened up to people many a time, because it has become an instrument in everybody's hands and there is no ombudsman or there is no censorship. And it need not be there. I don't recommend it. But at the same time, people who are mature, they should lead a movement to see that filthy languages, obnoxious things, personal comments are not there. And if possible, there should be some curtailing on these things also, because we have to keep our public debate and discourse very healthy, very wholesome, very welcoming thing. Well, men or women, anything. Even see, for example, if there is somebody who is not agreeing with my ideas and views, he is not my enemy. I do not consider him as my enemy. He may be having a different view. This is the essential thing that our nation's culture has always said. There is Shastrartha. That has been our tradition. Dvaita and Advaita, they could be together. You can pursue your ideas. You can comment upon my things. But that doesn't mean that you are my enemy. So that's why it is the responsibility of all the people. And immature people have entered into social media in many cases, if not all. Because they have, suddenly they have got one instrument where they can express everything. But one thing I would like to add, there are two things in this. Because you are also from media, our TV debates, panel discussions, they have not set good examples, unfortunately. Because shouting brigades have come and everybody is shouting and nobody wants to hear. If that is happening there, that is the education that people get for the social media also. Number two, about social media, I'd like to say here that fringe elements of any view, ideology, organization, party, etc., fringe elements are not the real representatives of any of these things. That's why it is very difficult to discriminate, differentiate fringe elements and serious elements. That is the biggest problem today. That's why the brigade starts pouncing upon others. And that becomes the enjoyment and entertainment, unfortunately. So that's why restraining the fringe elements is also the responsibility of some matured people. So this is what I want to say.
We are the world's largest democracy. We are also the most diverse society in the world. In that context, I want to ask you what you have to say about this tragic development that's taking place in the United States in recent times. That is the deteriorating race relations. It is also a democracy and it has diversity, but I don't think there's any nation in the world as diverse as ours. So if you look at our experience in dealing with pluralism, a diverse community, and you look at what's happening in the US today, the deteriorating race relations, I want to draw you out on that.
So in American society, what is now happening or happened in the previous months, it's an unfortunate development if with all these things, great the America's founding fathers, one of the best constitutions they have drafted for the considering the human spirit and human values and human rights. And such country, how they can behave, any sector that can behave. Number two, they have had all the fights and other things. We all know Abraham Lincoln, the story, Civil War, many things, slaves. Then they came out of those things. And America has itself as a nation where it's a crucible of so many differences, diversities, all races, all language. They can, the land of destiny. That's how they were declaring themselves, and it was so. But even Swami Vivekananda, when he returned from America, he said how America has developed itself as a nation, a new nation. But they have developed with these modern great values, scientific temperament, and many other things. That's why Swami Vivekananda, like person, also he appreciated the American society and American people. So with this great heritage, with this great background, historic background, American society, if it is practicing, at least some section of the society, if they are practicing racism, it is very, very painful and we cannot accept it. But one thing, the America's society has to deal with it properly, because dismantling of apartheid has taken place years ago in Africa. Slavery was stopped. Color differentiation should not be made a basis for any discrimination. All these things are there, and Martin Luther King and many others. So I think American majority doesn't want this. There may be, I do not know, there may be some vested interests who want to see that these discriminations and differences in the society remain there for their own vested interests. In this, I would like to say how to live with pluralism and diversity. India is a shining example. I remember there was once Kuldip Nayarji, he asked Margaret Thatcher after the return from USSR, and Margaret Thatcher advised Gorbachev, when your country is getting dismembered and various diversities you can't keep together, why don't you take the advice of your long-time friend? Gorbachev asked from whom? From India. And how India has remained as a nation, as a culture, as a civilization which plural, diverse faiths and diversities. This, I think, Americans will definitely take this as a great example, and Americans also have set example. I think this is necessary.
Dattatreya ji, before I wind up this conversation with you, one last question for which I would request a quick answer. Climate change, in terms of what we are doing and the whole global situation. What is your take on that?
There is an awareness across the world about the ecological things, and particularly climate change, global warming, etc. That's a good thing. And even about the water, there is an awareness. But whether it has come to the daily practice, whether it has become the part and parcel of our family social life, this is the thing. Because environmental things are discussing them at the table and passing some resolution is not going to help. No doubt. Government policies, economic development models, all these things are very, very important in deciding the destiny of humanity insofar as environmental issues are concerned. Because economic development model, because of the approach to our flora and fauna, our environmental situation, ecology, these things are very, very important in addressing this issue. That is at one level. Macro level, that is true. Policy level, it's very welcome. That has to take place. But at the micro level, how we inculcate these things as values, because these issues are today not just academic issues, not just economic issues. They are part and parcel of our values of life. I have to live in this environment with nature. That's why I have to live with some minimum needs. I have to live to let live. I have to live with certain discipline. So these things have to be inculcated. That's why it's good that the new syllabus curriculum, they are also being framed with these ideas. And internationally, there is awareness. It's good. There should be more stricter rules, I believe. The COVID pandemic has, in a way, created some awareness about these things, but it should be long-standing. After some vaccines, again, if people go back to the original situation, then it is not going to help. And RSS has started one wing called Paryavaran Raksha, that is environmental thing. For this very issue, that's why we have to coordinate with the various NGOs and others who are working in the field for the protection of environment, this climate change issues, etc. Number one. And also to see that the younger generation in their daily practices, they pick up these values as values of life. So this is how RSS is addressing the issue at the personal, family and societal level. At the policy and the governmental level, many things are happening, more things are required.
Dattatreya ji, thank you very much for being with us this evening.